Hey guys, this is Vincent Tung, the Wandering Warrior, and today I have Hanwei's Oxtail Saber, or Niúwěi Dao. Let's check it out. So first here with the Hanwei Oxtail Dao, we have the scabbard. And as you can see, the scabbard doesn't seem to be exactly high quality wood. It looks like it's varnished over, and the fittings don't really fit perfectly. Doesn't look like they really put in the effort to make everything really nice, but the pieces are all there and it's sturdy enough. Now, I know most people that are going to get sharp swords or they're going to practice with these are probably not putting a belt hook on it in order to wear it off of their belt or sash and practice drawing and cutting and all that. But if you do, keep in mind that these fittings aren't really fitted perfectly onto the scabbard. So as you saw, there's some sharp edges that can stick out, and you want to make sure that you flatten those out a bit. You can see the balance point is just about 6 inches from the guard. I quite like this, even though the blade is a bit on the shorter end as far as sabers are concerned. It's kind of like a cutlass, personal defense weapon here, but the balance is quite nice. I did consider getting the LK Chen, Niúwěi Dao, Oxtail Dao, but their balance was not quite as good, at least based on my experience with various antiques. Their ergonomics felt nice, but balance is quite important, isn't it? If you guys are curious, the background I have in the Chinese saber or Dao comes primarily from Qi Xing Tang Lang Quan, or Seven Star Mantis Boxing's Yanqing Dao, Yanqing Saber. Yanqing happens to be a character in the classic novel Outlaws of the Marsh. If you guys are interested in this particular skill set, I'll probably make a series of videos as well as an online course on it. It's really good stuff and really shows you what the late Qing Dynasty fighters were training up for as far as their swordsmanship. On that note, I must say it's kind of sad there's not a lot of good training, practice, or education on the Chinese saber, or just Asiatic sabers in general. See, a lot of what we think of as far as sabermanship comes from the Western European concept on the saber. And while obviously they did get some of that Turco-Mongol influence, they kind of took it their own way, and a lot of it has to do with their form of fencing that came out of the medieval and Renaissance eras, as well as their metallurgy, the way they made their blades, and the way they made the hand protection on the blades. When we look at a lot of the Asiatic sabers, whether it's Turkic, Mamluk, Central Asian, Indian, Indo-Persian, or Chinese, Vietnamese, etc., it's a very different paradigm. Same base technology, but the way they took it was different. And so it's a bit of a shame that there's not more education on this. Blades that aren't really meant to wind and bind, blades whose edges are very sharp, very hard, and not really meant to clash and stick if you can help it. And minimal hand protection, usually just a crossguard or a disc guard at most, none of those complex hilts. So I really look forward to honing my skills in this and presenting the authentic skill set someday. There's not a lot of good stuff out there, and I hope to change that, as you know. So there's decent flex in this blade. Let's see how it cuts. It's not super sharp out of the factory, but it's serviceable. Let's see how these twigs stand up to it. Nice, so it cuts those twigs pretty well with minimal effort. Like I said, factory edge isn't particularly sharp, but it's sharp enough to do things. I will definitely have to touch this up. The design is actually one that comes from the late Qing dynasty of China, where the sabers are starting to get used more and more by commoners, civilians, etc., because of the sheer amount of violence and the tumultuous and chaotic times that they were in. A lot of people arming themselves, a lot of paramilitary groups, a lot of militias. So there's a lot of people taking up the saber, and because of gunpowder weapons and less armor on the battlefield, we're looking at a lot of cultures, including India and the Ottoman Empire, starting to broaden out their blades or make them more curved. Here in China, or in the Chinese context, we're seeing that they are widening the tips of their blades so that there's less resistance in the cut and the slice. Now, this does mean that the points aren't quite as robust, but if you are less worried about thrusting and less worried about uh, cracking through heftier targets and really looking for a flesh cutter and slicer, this is perfect. Also, if you consider in northern China, a lot of people would be wearing more substantial clothing, especially in the wintertime, and you want something that can uh, cut and slice through the fabric. And guys, if you like my work as far as the folk fighting arts, the cultures around them, and sharing these skills and techniques, whether this is empty hands, wrestling, archery, or hand to hand weapons, including this Niúwěi Dao Oxtail Saber, please like, share, subscribe, and comment down below with your own thoughts, especially if you've gotten one of these swords yourself. Let me know what your experience was. Now, I must say, despite the issues with the scabbard fittings not being great, the balance and feel of the blade is quite nice. However, I do have an issue with the ergonomics here. The handle grip isn't perfect. Now, again, at this price, and again, this is one of the more affordable models out there, uh, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it's just not sitting in my hand just right. I've handled a variety of antiques, and I think that the handle here is built a little too thick, something like that. I'm gonna have to play with it, undo the cord wrapping, shave it down a bit, and see what I need from it. Right now, it's just not sitting in my hand as I'd like it to. And having handled some authentic antiques that, despite their rough appearance, were well balanced and had good edges, I know what it's supposed to be like. So I think this guy is due for some modification, both the scabbard and the handle. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed that first impression of the Hanwei Oxtail Saber, sometimes called a broadsword. Really, it's a saber. Niúwěi Dao, that's what we're going to call it. Oxtail Dao. And it's not great, it's not terrible. And stay tuned for part 2 where I make some modifications to it so that I'm finally satisfied with this thing. It's almost there, but it needs a little bit of work. So stay tuned. And as always, thank you guys so much for following me on my journey. I salute yours. Peace.